Well, hello, good morning, and hopefully y'all can hear me just fine. Welcome. Happy Monday, I guess. So I am super excited because I get to see Practical Magic this week and I get to do my birthday celebration. So, hi, good to see you folks. And I come partially caffeinated. About halfway through this, I had to wake up my family at 5 a.m. to get my kid to soccer tryouts at 7 a.m. And it looks like I may have to go back in the afternoon because apparently they really like to run them basically first thing in the morning and then first thing in the evening. No idea why that is, but that seems to work for people. So, hi, thank you. So, thank you, Alexis, saying happy birthday. So, I am excited. I am always excited to add another year to my age. How those hash mark things. I just enjoy making them, except when I'm seeing Invisible Martians or something. But that's a Doctor Who thing. So, hi, welcome. Happy to see you all here. And next week, I'm going to put out a poll to see what people's preferences are, but I am not going to be doing the live on Monday. And I am going to potentially look at doing it at a different time of day just to see what works best for people. The Substack crowd is a little bit different from other social media neighborhoods, so it's worth checking in and asking because all the behaviors are different just because it is designed for people that behave a little differently with the way they consume information. So I will be sending out a poll for people that are subscribed to my Substack. For people that are dropping in, I'm Diana Rachel. I am the voice behind The Spirited Witch, Practical Living for Spooky People, and also known where urbanism and animism meet. But that's one of the things I'm just going to work in there from time to time. And I do these lives ideally every week, miss a few here and there because of life things, because of family things, because of health things. But the idea is rather than doing the typical live where people shout out highly personal questions and I scan highly personal answers across a crowd, I would much prefer to do that type of reading one-on-one because then you can talk about actionable things to do about it. And I don't have to say anything potentially embarrassing. Um, what I do instead is I pull a card that is intended as advice to the community for the week. And it is very collectivist. If you haven't been paying attention or you're new to me, I am very left leaning. I consider myself a 90s moderate, which by modern standards is left leaning. And it comes through in my tarot, and my tarot cards have their own personalities and own ideas about things too that are sometimes even more deliberate than I am. So I did pregame today because I knew I was going to be up at 5 in the morning, and I am so not a morning person. So I am doing pretty good right now. Aside from knocking over my deck box. So the card that I pulled for today, and I will hold this up to the camera. So this would be Seven of Pentacles, Seven of Earth. This is Tarot of the Spirits. I highly recommend you check out Pamela Egan's, the person who created these. She even wrote an entire book series. Well, I tend to take a folk magic and earth-based perspective on this particular tarot deck. It's actually very Kabbalic and very astrological. So it has a little bit of something for everyone. And I do not have my astrological keys memorized, but it looks like this one has the Capricorn and the Saturn glyph on it. So when we are talking about the garden and in the Rider-Waite Coleman Smith tarot, you will see a guy leaning on a shovel, basically sweating it out because he's been digging and digging and digging. Now, what we're seeing is essentially the same advice we've been getting, except now it's almost more important and more literal than it's ever been, especially since everybody has valid reason to be afraid of lettuce right now. It is literally prepare for winter, prepare for what's next. I mean, I do live in the US. It is August. This is the very, very beginning of bulb planting season, where at least you're ordering your bulbs so you can plant them, whether that's garlic or something else. And yeah, Carrie's saying, yep, time to put in the work. And this is the time. And I know where I am, it rained heavily last night. The earth is nice and soft. I just had the city come through to replace some ancient pipes so that I will no longer be ingesting lead, I hope. And they also had to tear up my lawn to do it, which would upset most people, but we were doing permaculture, weed full lawn anyway. So this means that the creeping time I've been trying to sow, I can sow. I've started collecting my jug milk gallons. I don't really drink milk, but the rest of my family does. So I've been collecting those so I can start to do winter sowing. And so there's literal preparation for things that will offset the cost of food, for things that will give us more security, for things where we know where the fertilizer comes from. It is also, we are coming into a midterm election season, and like it or lump it, no matter what the United States position globally is, we have an influence in the world, and that means these midterm elections are some of the most important in history. So coming into the election season, digging deep, digging into what you value, digging into what's important to you for your future and what's important to your community for your future. The better we cultivate healthy interdependence, the less we are dependent on externals. And a lot of us have been doing the best we can to move to lifestyles where we work from home, or we minimize driving, or we live in areas where things are walkable as much as possible. And for some people, that means moving to a major city. Major cities tend to be more walkable than suburbs or rural communities, depending on the rural community and its design. And there's also a call for the digging in to go, let's look at our superstitions. Let's look at our stigmas. Stigmas are frequently really just superstitions that we have a fancier word for now. And I'm thinking of this today because my stepson gets very opposite values expressed to him in the households that he lives in. I am an urbanist. I am passionate about major cities. I believe that cities are an array of untapped magical potential, untapped commercial potential, untapped farming potential. And I'm living in Michigan, which is the leader in urban farming. Meanwhile, my stepson was telling me, well, there's still mostly bad neighborhoods in Detroit, which I was in Detroit in 1996 when that was true. That is not true now. That is not even remotely true. But he is being raised where he's being told city bad, rural good, when it is simply not that simple, because rural and city not only need each other, but both have been making major changes because of global circumstances that the people living in those spaces may or may not have a say in. And a lot of cities, especially because of the urban farming movement, and the urban farming movement is a major reason for the recovery that has happened in Detroit. Does that mean that every neighborhood is perfect or perfectly healthy? No, there are some that are still struggling, but that's true of most cities. That is even true in rural communities. That is even true in smaller towns where even they have even the tiniest town will have one street that's not doing quite as well as the others, or that gets plowed last or something. And trying to get him to understand that that sample of bad news he sees isn't all of the information, it's a selection of the information to influence a perspective. That is a tough conversation, especially since that style of critical thought has been slowly being consumed by the internet. And so when we were looking at the garden card, it isn't just looking at what we're physically cultivating, although yes, absolutely doing the physical work. It's also looking in, are we asking enough questions about what we're being fed, literally and figuratively? And what information are we being fed? What information are we accepting without going, so where did this come from? What made the ingredients? Who made the ingredients? And, what was their mission? We will go to farm to table restaurants and ask for the names of the sheep from the mutton, but we're not going, who made this news piece? And aside from clicks, what result are they trying to get? And that's part of the digging deeper and okay, this is a place where they just want people to have the right information. They may not always get it right themselves, but they will correct themselves. This one wants me to come out with an opinion like they have. Why? What do they gain from that? And does this serve my good, my community's good, or does it just make me afraid? And that's where the digging in comes from. And that's going to be a deeper conversation over on the Patreon 3-card drawing that I do right after this. For those that aren't familiar, because I am a full-time writer, I wrote Hex Twisting, Urban Magic, a couple other books, and I have a couple more books in the work. Yay, finally, it's taken me enough years. But for those that would like to go a little bit deeper, I do 3 card drawing on Mondays for the Patreon. And this starts with the card that I draw here. And then we go into a slightly different reading with a little bit more information and a little bit more back and forth discussion about, great, what do we do with the information? Because there's really no point to a tarot reading unless you actually can do something with that information. At least that's my opinion. So feel free to come over and check it out. Membership is free. People that subscribe at $10 and up per month actually get full access to the Substack, as well as the $10 level Patreon access. So you get to see all the good things on the Substack with that as part of that, pretty much as long as you're a Patreon member. And also, yes, I do, for those that may ask later, I do one-on-one readings. I do have my booking link up in the chat there. And I think there's some people that have had readings from me that you can always ask, so how is she? And aside from being horribly, horribly direct, I'm hearing pretty good. So that's what I have for you this morning. Thank you for joining me. And yay, we can celebrate that the herb cabinet is back. And I will see some folks over on the Patreon. Thank you so much for spending the time, and stay magical.